Deputy Smyth.
To ask the Minister for Culture, Heritage and Gaeltacht her plans to address concerns raised by the more than 300 Irish artists regarding the Abbey Theatre, and if you will make a statement on the matter.
That's a group talk.
Two further questioners for this particular question.
Opportunity to pose the question. It's a matter for you to decide now if there are three.
That's fine, Masca Corla. So, I mean, originally in my statement I proposed to take three questions together in my response, but I'm at your discretion.
That's question 34, 35 and
1969, 1719 and 2004. Yeah.
Sorry?
That's the numbering I have for the questions.
34, 35 and 37.
Yeah, that's fine.
And everybody will get their opportunity. Thank you.
So on the 7th of January 2019, I received a letter signed by over 300 theatre practitioners, and this letter raised the concerns of the practitioners about the direction taken by the Abbey Theatre over the past 2 years. And I would like to put on record the huge respect that I have for the theatre practitioners who wrote to me, and indeed celebrate the extent and depth of the talent encompassed by the totality of the signatories. And while the correspondence from the theatre practitioners raises concerns about the changing artistic model at the Abbey Theatre, I understand that more positive outcomes arising from these changes have also been recognised. And I acknowledge the concerns raised by the practitioners, while at the same time recognising the Abbey Theatre's need for artistic freedom to strike a balance in terms of its programming. I also recognise the necessity for a strong working relationship between theatres and theatre practitioners, and this is vital for the continued success of theatre in this country. The Abbey Theatre and all theatre practitioners are a central part of the national culture, and I take the concerns of the practitioners very seriously. And I've been informed that the Abbey Theatre had already been aware of some of the concerns raised from the practitioners, and they are actively working with stakeholder companies to address them. And I'm pleased to report that the Abbey Theatre is already making arrangements to meet with representatives of the signatories to discuss their concerns. And in the meantime, as I said yesterday here at Leaders' Questions, I've written to both the theatre practitioners and the Abbey Theatre on the issues raised last week. I also note the Abbey's statement, which made clear that it pays actors that it employs on terms and conditions that have been agreed with the Irish Equity, the Actors Union. And in presentation or in association arrangements, the Abbey Theatre does not set the rate of pay, which has been the prerogative of the producing companies. The Abbey Theatre has stated that this is to be reviewed as part of the dialogue with the theatre practitioners. And on Friday, the Abbey issued a press release acknowledging the discussion in the media and stating that it is listening attentively and with respect to all viewpoints. And the statement went on to say that it is acutely aware of the precarious nature of those working in theatre as freelancers. And I'm confident that given these sentiments and the commitment by all parties to dialogue and engagement, that we can look forward to a mutually satisfactory outcome that will deliver the vision for a national theatre at the heart of Irish society that is indeed artist-led and audience-focused. And the Arts Council has informed me that it had been engaging with the Abbey Theatre in recent months in relation to the quality of employment opportunities and remuneration rates that it provides for Irish-based artists. And this is the role of the Arts Council as the main funder of the Abbey Theatre and indeed other state-supported theatres and organisations. And I'm reassured by the fact that the Arts Council were already aware of the issues and taken action on this issue with the Abbey. And as with all Arts Council funding, support to that particular theatre in 2019 will be based on a funding agreement. And as we know, and has been documented in the media, 300,000 has been withheld pending confirmation that these conditions have been met. The Abbey Theatre recently launched its 5-year strategy, which sets out the key priorities of its vision between 2019 and 2023. And it reflects the core responsibilities in relation to Irish theatre making, audiences, staff, funders and the community of stakeholders. And the strategy has ultimately 3 interconnected strands. The first is art and audience, the second is internationalisation and investment, and the third is people and processes. And under each strand, the Abbey Theatre identifies and outlines their goals for this 5-year period. And these include a consistent focus on new work, providing space and time to support artistic exploration and experimentation, alongside the theatre's relationship with established Irish playwrights and artists, as well as a pledge to ensure that quality, and specifically gender equality and diversity, remain at the heart of the Abbey Theatre's plans and all of its activities. And this government understands the importance of culture and is committed to supporting it. And the Taoiseach, as we know, has committed to doubling funding levels for culture, heritage and the Gaeltacht by 2025. And the announcement of 1.2 billion in capital funding for these areas last year in Project Ireland 2040, and the significant increase for current funding for the arts in Budget 2009, I believe, are proof of this. And I was pleased to be able to deliver additional supports to the sector in line with these government commitments. In Budget 2019, funding for the arts and culture sector in general was increased by 22.6 million to almost 190 million, which is an increase of 14% on 2018. And this funding comprises of 148.2 million in current expenditure and 41.7 million in capital investment. And this includes an increase to the Arts Council funding by almost 6.8 million, or 10%, to a total of 75 million, which is made up of 6 million current expenditure, which is more than double the increase in 2018. And the vast majority of this money goes directly to artists and those working in the arts in Ireland. In 2017, the government launched a pilot initiative which allowing visual artists and writers to apply for job seekers benefit if and when they become unemployed. And my department is currently reviewing the pilot scheme with officials of the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection, with the possibility of extending it to other artists, including actors. And these initiatives, Lascian Ciorla, as well as the increased funding for the arts and cultural sector, and in addition to the almost 1.2 billion in capital funding, clearly shows that the government is acting on our commitment to double funding by 2025. And I've asked the Abbey Theatre as well to give me an update and to keep me informed of progress.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Niamh Smyth, first question.
Thank you, Lascian Ciorla. Minister, the first thing that has to be said for 312 artists to actually put their name to this letter was not only brave, but also, I suppose, inspirational, that they were prepared to put their head above the parapet in terms of a lot of those actors or young actors. And, you know, there's always a concern if you're an actor or an artist that if you speak up too soon, if you speak too loudly on pay and conditions and things like that, that it's going to have a detrimental impact on your career. So it is no small way a very brave thing what these artists have done, and some of them being your own appointed cultural ambassadors. So I'm sure that they will have your ear in terms of the importance and the significance of this. Yesterday we had members of Theatre Forum in here too, and I mean there is a broader issue here, although this question is focused on the Abbey Theatre and the artists who have signed this letter. There is a broader issue in terms of the precarious nature that actors, that playwrights, that film artists, that visual artists find themselves in terms of their working career. But Minister, I would have to say, I do feel it has been a very hands-off approach in terms of the government's speak on this and what you have said, or perhaps almost your silence has been deafening on this issue. You are the Minister with responsibility for this national cultural institution. You have appointed your board. The ethos and the objectives of the Abbey Theatre are hugely important and have to be influenced in some way by you. Minister. The big issue here is about the Abbey Theatre and doing in-house productions to give artists, actors, designers and playwrights opportunities.
Minister to respond. 1 minute.
First of all, Deputy, I accept the fact that it was very brave of the 300-odd signatories to sign a letter of this nature and of this seriousness to the Abbey Theatre. There could be no doubt about that. And it's very important that their views are heard. They are people representing the acting profession throughout Ireland. And the Abbey Theatre is the national theatre, and I absolutely laud them for that. And you know, it's important that there's a proper communication channel between the Abbey Theatre and the actors. And if this has precipitated that conversation towards a better communication into the future, then that's a good thing, I think. I see what you're saying about the precarious nature of the profession in general for actors, and that's why I mentioned in my earlier statement in relation to the social welfare that we have in place for actors. And we hope that that will be rolled out once we look at the pilot in more depth. It may be something that is feasible. It's under review at the moment. It's something that I think would be very acceptable in the future to assist them. But just to say, in terms of my own role, I have responsibility for setting the overall vision and the strategic direction for Ireland's cultural sector. And in the first instance, these issues should be resolved by dialogue between the Abbey Theatre Chair and the Board and the theatre directors and the theatre practitioners. And I'm already encouraged that the dialogue is taking place and that there will be progress.
Deputy Ó Snodaigh, first question.
Minister, I thank you for raising some of the issues, but it's a pity that it took 300 artists, actors, directors and that to have to take to the national newspapers to raise these issues, because they have raised them over the years and kind of they haven't been fully addressed. And you said you've urged dialogue, but it goes further than having dialogue between those who signed the letter and the directors of the Abbey, because it said something that has got to that stage. So, Minister, do you agree that the National Theatre itself has a role in setting an example in relation to terms and conditions of actors and those within the theatre profession? Do you further agree that there's a need for an ongoing conversation around the role of the National Theatre now and into the future, in particular in relation to commissioning of Irish works directly employing Irish actors and the like, and also ensuring that there is an employment regime which encourages those who are self-employed in the industry.
Yeah, and I think the Abbey Theatre certainly has a responsibility to look at the issues that have been raised in the letter by the signatories, and I know that following my letter, excuse me, I have a cough in my throat, but I wrote a letter to the Abbey on the 11th of January 2019, and I have said to them, I'm pleased to note that the Abbey is taking the concerns raised very seriously and has extended an invitation to representatives of the signatories to meet and discuss their concerns. And I said I welcome the commitment by the Abbey Theatre to dialogue and engagement, and that I'm supportive of their collective endeavours to resolve the matters raised. And I would ask that a report be submitted to me in a month's time with an update. And I've said to them that I look forward to a mutually satisfactory outcome that will deliver the vision for a national theatre at the heart of Irish society that is artist-led and audience-focused. And I also wrote to the theatre practitioners, and I said to them that I've publicly lauded the wealth of talent amongst them. And I said that while I acknowledge the necessity for the Abbey Theatre, as with all theatres, to have a level of artistic freedom in terms of its programming, I also recognised the necessity for a strong working relationship with theatre practitioners, and that this is vital for the continued success of theatre in this country.
First question from Deputy Barrett.
Well, I talked to people who both signed the letter and people who made a decision, who were asked to sign it and made a decision not to sign it. And as you can see, there's quite a polarised debate on either side of this question. And to some extent, I think it is up to the theatre and arts community to sort this out themselves. There has to be a balance between making the National Theatre a space for all of the people and all of the theatre community and all the different theatre companies, while at the same time guaranteeing decent terms and conditions of employment and some sort of security for actors and theatre workers generally. And that's really what I want to focus on in my question. You see, would you accept, Minister, that really what's at the back of this is that workers in the arts, whether they're actors, performers, or I've raised film workers incessantly with you for the last year, have no security at all. They have no security of employment, they've no security of income, they've no security of career path, and this is the problem. That we take them for granted. We wheel them out for the 100th anniversary of the Dáil celebrations, but we actually don't care that they're living in poverty, they've no security of employment. You can work in the film industry or arts for 20 or 30 years and you don't know whether next week you're going to have a job, going to have an income, be able to get a mortgage, be able to pay a rent.
Minister,
that is the problem.
Minister, to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy, for your question and for acknowledging the fact that this is a polarised debate, or discussion, maybe, we could say. And it's already clear from media reports that there are very different viewpoints to the debate. And the direction, I think it has to be said, taken by the Abbey current directors has been positive in many respects. And developments which have been lauded included increased audiences, greater diversity of productions, gender balance and financial performance. I note what you say about artists in general and actors in general and the struggle that they have, and you know, I don't think it's an easy profession. I think by its very nature it is precarious, and that we do have an onus as a government to try in any way we can support their livelihood, and we are trying to do that in terms of the social welfare scheme that we have available. There are currently a total of 46 artists and writers participating on the pilot, and over 80 have participated on it since its commencement. And as I said, that is being under review at the moment, and we're looking to hopefully try to extend that. And there's also been greater funding for the arts, as I said in my original statement last year.
I'll take three supplementaries together. First from Deputy Smyth.
Minister, or Las Concorda, the letter requests that the Abbey stages a bigger percentage of in-house productions rather than co-productions or buy-ins. It also requests that the performers, directors and designers whose work is used by the National Theatre get Abbey Theatre terms and conditions. So with regard to these questions, do you believe that the balance between co-productions or buy-ins and in-house productions since 2016 is correct? Do you believe that the artists who are performing in the National Theatre should be remunerated in line with Abbey Theatre rates? And I have to ask you, Minister, do you agree with the dismantling of the literary department in the Abbey Theatre?
Have any responsibility to look at the concerns and the issues yourself, rather than hope that between the directors of the Abbey and the 300 signatories that they will sort it out. So, for instance, have you read the playwright Jimmy Murphy's further criticism of the Abbey, which appeared in the Irish Times yesterday? Because I believe that given the large funding, state funding of the Abbey Theatre, it has quite a number of roles and it needs a vision, and that vision should lie with the funder. To ensure that it is implemented, and some of that vision is ensuring that people are directly employed, that they're engaged with the freelancers in the country, but also experimenting, encouraging, looking at our history, looking at our future, all of the issues that have been raised in recent weeks. But the responsibility in many ways, because you are the Minister, lies with yourself, not only just to get over this hurdle, but to ensure over time that these issues continue to be addressed, rather than just find a quick answer now.
Final supplementary.
One issue that I think, so a lot of these are complex and nuanced issues, to be honest with you, right? But one of the issues that, to my mind, is beyond question is people who are involved in co-productions from other theatre companies who work in the Abbey stage should be paid Abbey rates. This idea that you have a two-tier pay structure. And the other point to make, which the Theatre Forum people made, is that the smaller theatre companies themselves have been effectively dismantled over recent years because of cuts in funding, right? So you end up with the theatre community taking lumps out of each other in a desperate scramble to get the little bit of work that's available in the Abbey or in the places that are funding. You see, and Minister, that's why I really want to emphasise the bottom line is we're not valuing arts and culture. And I repeat the point about film as well. There's people working in the film industry for 20 years, right? A publicly funded industry, and they have no jobs. They have no jobs, right? And it's similar to the arts. 80% of our artists are earning about a third of the average industrial wage. right? Total precarity, no security. And we are spending one of the lowest levels of money on arts anywhere in Europe. You know, I was talking to somebody who worked in Germany, in a theatre in Germany. Workers in Germany, theatre workers, artists, performers, dancers, have permanent jobs. They get 6 weeks holiday, they get sick pay, they get pension contributions, they have real jobs. Artists and workers in the arts in this country have no rights or security.
Minister, the 3 supplementaries.
Yeah, so first of all, Deputy Smyth, I think you raised about co-productions and the balance in terms of the programming. Certainly under the 5-year strategy, the Abbey, considers many different types of shows and programmes. There's co-produced shows, there's in-association productions, there are presented shows, and there are other different types of shows. So the balance has to be right. There has to be a correct balance in order to support Irish artists in any meaningful way. And you also mentioned about the literary department. I'm not aware of that. I can check that out for you and come back to you about it. Deputy Ó Snodaigh, I think it's important to say that the arts community places a very high value on the legal position that I would have as an arm's length relationship with the Arts Council. I provide very significant funding to the Independent Arts Council. This year was 75 million, and the Arts Council then in turn independently administers this. So the Arts Council also has to be mindful as well of the integrity of artistic freedom, and so that's important to say. But just in terms of you saying that I'm just going to let them have a dialogue about this and not interfere. At the moment, I am overseeing what is happening. There has been a further development yesterday, as in I received a letter from the Abbey, a copy of a letter that they have sent to the signatories, and they are looking for a meeting on the 1st of February, and I hope that the theatre practitioners may be in a position to meet them.
Right.